So full court press, we continue to engage the battle at every point where God calls us to stand for liberties. The Apostle Paul certainly did that in Philippi. Think about it, Acts 16, when he said, the city council needs to come down here and get me out of this prison because they've violated the law. So if the Apostle Paul can do that kind of thing to stand for his liberties, the rest of us must do the same thing wherever we happen to be. And welcome, my friends, to the Generations broadcast. Kevin Swanson, your host, with you today. We're returning to the Idrahaji case out here in the state of Colorado. The Idrahaji case is involving a Christian camp. It's actually a shortened form of I'd Rather Have Jesus. So it's really I'd Rather Have Jesus camp, but evidently they wanted to shorten that a bit. It's interesting. We've had some interactions with Idrahaji camp over the years. I'm thinking all the way back 20, 25 years ago. They came out to the Christian Home Educators of Colorado conference, and we've had a lot of interactions with Idrahaji over the years. But what happened was, and I can just give you a little bit of background, then we're going to talk to Alliance Defending Freedom in just a moment. But the Colorado Department of Early Childhood is asking the Christian camp Idrahaji here in Colorado to choose between upholding their biblical beliefs concerning biological sex or on the other hand, risk losing their license or abandoning its beliefs and mission. So on the one hand, they could uphold their biblical beliefs, then lose their license to operate in the state of Colorado, or they could abandon their beliefs and mission and agree to the requirements placed upon them by the Colorado Department of Early Childhood. So the DEC is forcing the camp to allow girls and boys to shower, dress, and share sleeping quarters with campers of the opposite sex. In other words, those who are pretending to be not their born gender, but the other gender are going to be allowed or should be allowed to shower, dress, and share sleeping quarters with those of the opposite sex. Okay, so that's the issue at risk right now, and especially in light of Colorado's HB 1312, this I think to be an important test case, at least for our state. So joining me today is Andrea Dill with Alliance Defending Freedom, and she represents Idrahaji camps in the case. So welcome, Andrea, to the Generations broadcast. It's good to have you here today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, maybe you could describe what happened with Idrahaji. I think it all kind of happened earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken, but maybe give us a little bit of background on the case.
Yeah. So this case is about preventing the state of Colorado from forcing a Christian camp to adopt the state's extreme policies on gender and sexuality, which it cannot do. So we represent, as you said, Camp Idrahaji in the case, which is a Christian camp in Colorado that serves up to 3,000 campers each summer. It's open to children of all faiths and backgrounds, but it does require all campers to follow all rules, including its rules, which are consistent with the camp's beliefs on gender and sexuality, that campers have to use private facilities based on their biological sex. But unfortunately, the state of Colorado, as you said, is trying to force the camp to violate those beliefs by requiring licensed camps like Idrahaji to allow campers to use private facilities based on chosen gender identity rather than biological sex. And this violates the free exercise clause. The Supreme Court has repeatedly held that a state cannot force a camp to choose between its religious exercise and a public benefit. And that's exactly what Colorado is doing here. As you said, it's forcing the camp to choose between living out its beliefs on gender and sexuality or maintaining its license to operate in the state. And that's unconstitutional. And so we filed suit on behalf of Idrahaji in the District of Colorado. And these regulations were enacted. They went into effect in February of this year. So that's why we're challenging them now, so that Idrahaji can continue to live out its beliefs and not adopt the state's extreme policies on gender and sexuality.
Would you say this is an overreach on the part of an overeager bureaucrat, just kind of this frivolous one-off situation, or is it going to be something of a critical fight for Christian camps or even Christian schools that want to exempt themselves from laws relating to this transgenderism and sexual orientation?
Well, we certainly hope that this is not a trend, but certainly Colorado has seemed to show that it wants to force this gender ideology on Christians, on all of its people, including kids in this situation. So unfortunately, Colorado seems to be showing a trend of wanting to force this gender ideology on Christians. We've had other cases where Colorado has shown hostility to Christians like it's doing here. And we hope that we can, though, through cases like this, prevent the trend and just allow Christians to maintain their freedom to just live out their beliefs freely in Colorado.
Are we winning cases relating to? I mean, I think about the baker in Denver who's basically won over the years, though he continues to fight the good fight. Are we winning these cases, or are we losing cases? Or does it depend on the district?
Yes, we are certainly winning cases in Colorado. The Jack Phillips, he lost at the state level, but then, as you probably know, at the Supreme Court, he won. And the Supreme Court held that the state can't show hostility to people, to people's religious beliefs. We also had the 303 Creative case, where the Supreme Court reiterated that a state cannot force a private person to express views that it does not believe in. And then we also recently had a case called Darren Patterson, where we were representing a school called Darren Patterson, and a challenge to regulations on Colorado's universal preschool program, that were also regulations that were trying to push a gender ideology by forcing participants in this universal pre-K program to adhere to certain gender identity regulations. And the court ruled in our favor in that case as well. So fortunately, the courts seem to be siding with us in many of these cases and recognizing that the state can't do this. It can't force Christian persons or organizations to adopt these extreme policies.
What about Bostock and Harris Funeral Homes decision that occurred, I think, in 2020? How does that impact private businesses or Christian ministries that are not churches?
So those cases were specific, to secular employers, and Bostock was just a Title VII case. So it could impact secular employers, but religious employers and religious organizations like IDRHAJ have the right to live out their beliefs and have the right to not adhere to these extreme policies that violate their religious beliefs. And the Supreme Court has repeatedly recognized that despite cases like Bostock and Harris.
Okay, so it doesn't just exempt churches, but it also exempts a religious organization that has described itself to be a religious organization in its founding documents. Is that the key?
Yes, these religious persons and organizations have the right to live out their beliefs, and the Free Exercise Clause protects those beliefs and exercise and religious exercise for religious real organizations, not just churches, any person of faith or organization of faith.
So at this point, you would say that you're winning most of your cases relating to these sorts of issues. And that's probably largely due to the bent of the U.S. Supreme Court towards the more conservative position, thanks to Donald Trump. I mean, that's really what's happening here, right?
Yeah, I can't speak to, what percentage we're winning or, what the actual cause is. But I do know that the Constitution protects the free exercise of religion and protects organizations like IDRHAJ, protects the religious exercise and their ability to live out their religious beliefs, including their beliefs on gender and sexuality. And Supreme Court has fortunately recognized that in recent years.
Yeah, so that's given something of a window of opportunity and freedom for Christian ministries and Christian churches over these number of years. So praise God that we still have that window of opportunity. Alliance Defending Freedom has been right there at the forefront of so many of these cases for so many years. Why don't you speak just for a moment to your organization?
Yeah, so we, operate to allow churches and ministries who are on the ground out there spreading the gospel, serving people, and we just want to protect their ability to live out their faith and continue to serve people and live out their beliefs and spread the message of the gospel. Mm-hmm. Kevin, we just want to protect that. And, they're doing such amazing work and, they're the ones out there spreading the truth, and we just want to protect their ability to do so.
Well, there certainly is a battle for these basic freedoms, not just here in America, but also around the world. I know you have an international arm that is active in Europe and perhaps other places as well.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, we are certainly fighting for religious exercise all over the world, and our international team. I'm not on that team, so I'm no expert on their cases, but I know they do some incredible work. Mm-hmm. And there's just some really scary things happening in other countries as far as religious persecution, but they're out there fighting to protect Christians all over the world.
How would you encourage the average listener to sort of engage a bit of the battle, to come side by side with legal organizations like yourself, to just stand in the gap and be there for the few that are under attack? I mean, the rest of us aren't really under attack at any given point in time. It's the 0.1% of ministries that get these sorts of opposition and tribulations and trials. So how do we stand with them? What would you say would be the best way to do that?
Well, certainly a really important thing is prayer. Praying for all these ministries and praying for judges and justices across the nation to continue to protect the constitutional rights. And I think it's helpful to just be aware of what the cases hold and what the Constitution protects, and to understand, to help religious organizations understand that they don't have to give up their beliefs to participate in government programs or to just operate. They don't have to cave to these government policies that require them to violate their beliefs.
Well, thank you very much. Andrea Dill has been with us today from Alliance Defending Freedom on the Idrahaji case here in the state of Colorado. So Full Court Press, we continue to engage the battle at every point where God calls us to stand for liberties. The Apostle Paul certainly did that in Philippi. Think about it, Acts 16, when he said, the city council needs to come down here and get me out of this prison because they've violated the law. So if the Apostle Paul can do that kind of thing to stand for his liberties, the rest of us must do the same thing wherever we happen to be. And that's what Alliance Defending Freedom is doing. So thank you, Andre, for joining us today on Generations. It's been great.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.